World News in 5.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Several countries have expressed concern over a risk of wider hostilities in the Middle East region following the killings of two militant leaders early this week. On Tuesday, a senior commander of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut, an attack that Israel said was a retaliation for a deadly rocket-fire attack in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights recently. In less than 24 hours, Palestinian militant group Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in the Iranian capital Tehran. Israel made no claim of responsibility nor comment on Haniyeh's death, but it was widely assumed it was behind the killing. Commenting on the recent developments in the region, Britain's UN Ambassador Barbara Woodward urged all parties involved for calm and restraint, stressing that long-term peace will not be secured by bombs and bullets. She also called on Israel and Hamas to recommit to the negotiations, underscoring a two-state solution that will pave the way for peace. In a separate statement, China's UN Ambassador Fu Kong stressed the need to achieve a ceasefire in the war-torn Gaza Strip, urging countries with major influence to put more pressure and work more vigorously to extinguish the flames of hostilities. Japan, through its Deputy UN Representative Shino Mitsuko, expressed concern over a fear of an all-out war in the region, urging all parties to de-escalate the situation. She also called for international efforts to prevent a wider conflict in the Middle East and expressed Tokyo's readiness to cooperate with other stakeholders to cool down the simmering tension. Meanwhile, Robert Wood, Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN, called for members of the Security Council to put more pressure on Iran to stop escalating its proxy conflict against Israel and other actors. Iran's UN Ambassador Amir Saeed Iravani said Tehran has consistently exercised maximum restraint but reserved its right to respond decisively. He also called on the Security Council to condemn Israel and slap it with sanctions. Jonathan Miller, Israel's deputy representative to the UN, countered Iravani's statement by calling on the Council to condemn and increase its sanctions against Tehran for supporting what he said regional terrorism. He also said Israel will defend itself and respond with great force against those who harm it. Hostilities in the Middle East have been escalating significantly since the Gaza war broke out in October. The international community has repeatedly called on all involved parties to de-escalate the tension as they fear the spillover of the war could later evolve into an all-out regional conflict.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
In our news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv does not want China to serve as the mediator in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, but hoped Beijing would put more pressure on Moscow to end the armed conflict. Speaking to French reporters, Zelensky said China can force Russia to stop the war if it wants to, stressing that the more influence a country has, the greater it has pressure on Moscow. To achieve a just peace for Ukraine, he reiterated the need to restore Kyiv's 1991 post-Soviet borders. He also said that giving up territory to Russia was not an option for a negotiation to end the war. The Russia-Ukraine war has been raging for more than 29 months with no immediate sight of ceasing it soon. Several countries, including China, have been actively finding solutions to the conflict that hugely impacted the world's economy in the past 2 years.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
And for our Philippine Embassy and Consular news, the Philippine Embassy in Israel, led by Ambassador Pedro Lailo Jr., conducted a coordination briefing early this week to discuss the recent developments in the country. According to the embassy, Philippine Defense and Armed Forces Attaché Colonel Ray Gubantes briefed the embassy officials about the security assessment in northern Israel. The officials also discussed the embassy's preparation for the Filipinos in Israel, especially those situated in the the northern part of the country. Following the briefing, it said it would conduct separate virtual meetings with the Filipino community leaders and coordinators in the coming days to share the details of the recent security assessment. It also reminded Filipinos in the country to stay vigilant, wait for security advisories, and follow safety guidelines issued by the embassy and the Israel Defense Force Home Front Command. Tensions in the Middle East have further increased in the past months due to some developments, including the risk of a wider conflict between Israel and Lebanon. Due to the increasing tensions in the country and the region, the embassy has called on Filipinos to postpone their non-essential travel to Israel indefinitely or until situation in the country has stabilized.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.
And that is for today's edition of World News in 5 here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This is Peñano. Good day.
World News in 5.
News and developments making headlines around the world in 5 minutes.
World News in 5.
Here on Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide.